Nearly 30 years after it was first created, the Blues Clues pilot is finally out to the public. As a Blues Clues fan growing up, this was one of my most highly sought after lost media out there, and I'm so happy to see it is finally available. I watched the pilot, and today I'm going to go over that pilot and talk about all the things that stood out to me and give you my thoughts on it. Now, the creators of Blues Clues ended up redoing the pilot but used the same storyline for the first episode of the show called Snack Time. So throughout this video, you'll see a lot of comparisons between stuff that happened in the pilot and stuff that happened in Snack Time that I thought stood out to me. And of course, we gotta start with the title card, Blueprints versus Blues Clues. Huge change in name. And, we first heard about this when they did in 2006 a 10th anniversary special for Blues Clues, where they talked about how it was originally entitled Blueprints. And it makes sense, right? Like, blueprints, that's a thing that people use a lot, and it would have been a great name, but I think Blues Clues is just so much more superior. You got the nice rhyme to it. Throughout the show, it's called Blues Clues, and that's the thing you notice watching the pilot. We never hear the word blueprints throughout the episode, but you do hear Blues Clues, or Blues Clue is really what they were saying. They didn't add the S until they, of course, changed the name. But yeah, I think that was a brilliant move to change it from Blueprints to Blues Clues. And the thing is, Blueprints I think would have been a great name too. It's just Blues Clues is so much more superior. And in terms of the title card, I really like how they do it here because it kind of just cuts from the blueprints. It just cuts to a book that they open up versus in the actual show, the Blues Clues logo is on the book they open up. I don't know if that was just them, hey, this is a pilot, we'll get to that once we have everything confirmed, or if that's just kind of after they got it confirmed, they thought, oh, this would be a good idea to do it that way. I don't know either way, but I definitely prefer how they do it in the actual show. But in terms of the logo too, I also like how we have Blues paw print as the logo instead of having it be the eye and print. I wonder if once they changed the name, that's something they had to decide to do, or if it just ended up working out this way, because like I said, I can't stress enough, I love the name Blueprints, I like the logo as well, but what they did with Blues Clues, what they did with the logo, in the end, so much better. So one of the first shots you see in every episode is, of course, the house, and I really like how they did it in the actual show. Here in the pilot, a lot to be desired, because it does feel like the Blues Prince of what it's ultimately going to be, because there's just not too much going on. Like, you look at what they actually did, like mailboxes in the yard, you have a ball in the yard, a tree. You don't have any of that in the pilot, and the house is so much less detailed. It works, it gets across the idea they want, especially considering this is a pilot, but I'm really glad they made the decision to update this, because it's kind of boring. So let's talk about Steve, who, he had some changes to him, and ultimately, he's the main character of the show. Every episode revolves around him, and, not just did he change, but his surroundings, which I think fit with what change they ultimately did, because what we got was a long sleeve striped green shirt for Steve. The pilot, it was a polo that was short sleeved, and it was red, and I think it fit the environment, because I think part of it was the pilot. This is a pilot, they're trying to get it picked up by a network. You don't want to put in all these long hours to make this as the perfect episode that you want to air episode 1 if it's not going to get picked up. So I think like some of the decisions, because it's not that colorful, the house, especially compared to what we ultimately get when the show gets picked up. So I think the green shirt they went with was so much better than the red one, because to me it stands out more. Anybody can have the red polo shirt that Steve wears, but not everybody has this striped green shirt, and it became so iconic, so much so that even after Steve left, when you think of Blues Clues, he's such a large part of it, and that's the thing you think of, his striped green shirt. I think it was one of the best, if not the best decision they made, changing from the pilot to episode 1 was changing the green shirt. I think it was such a smart move, and while Steve did a really good job, I think that the green shirt really helped elevate Blues Clues even more. So in the pilot, we don't hear a word from Side Table Drawer, but in the actual Snack Time episode, we do hear from her. So I wonder if they made the decision later on after the pilot was picked up to make Side Table Drawer a character. because on one hand, she looks not that much different from the pilot to Snack Time. Changed a little bit, mostly the phone on top of her, but it's mostly again to do with like the style change. They went from the pilot to the actual episode, so I don't look into that too much, but it was an interesting move to have her as a speaking character in Snack Time but not in the pilot. So I'm gonna guess that when they made the pilot, they didn't have plans for Side Table Drawer to be a character, which is really interesting to see that they added a character like that probably kind of late into the process. Really cool to me. So Mailbox changes from the pilot to Snack Time, and I think it just helps to confirm my theory that this was a pilot. They didn't want to put a ton of hours into something that might not get picked up, because Mailbox is just so much more detailed and more colorful come Snack Time than what he is in the pilot. And I mean, it definitely works. What they did for him in the pilot works. It gets the idea across, but I'm very happy to see they made the decision. I think Mailbox is one of the biggest characters on the show, such a constant in every episode. It was a great decision to make the changes to him that really were necessary. I think the biggest surprise to me, though, is when Steve goes to get the mail in the pilot, it looks like they use an actual mailbox. Like, they painted this mailbox purple to match Mailbox's design, and Steve actually sticks it into, because in the actual show, they don't really do that. Mailbox front just opens, but here we get a side shot of Mailbox as Steve grabs the mail. So interesting. I am glad they did it the way they do in the show, but I wasn't expecting to see that. The handy dandy notebook in the pilot, it's yellow. The pencil he uses is yellow. I mean, it fits the style of what the house is. So much reds and yellows in that house. But come Snack Time, they changed it. It's now green, matches Steve's shirt. It has the red thinking chair in the front. Just so much better. So much better. I really like that. For one, so much more sellable. I own one of these. I got one of these as a kid. And I mean, this is such a big part of the show too, even to this day. And I just can't imagine that really being the case if they decided to keep the design in the pilot. Again, though, I think it's just like, hey, let's not design this super fancy handy dandy notebook and the show not even get picked up. Like, it totally worked. And frankly, if they did go with this design for the show, yeah, it would have worked. But the decision they made to make the handy dandy notebook the way it is for Snack Time and for the show, great decision by Blue's Clues. So the drawing of the clues, which, by the way, Steve is not the one who does this, somebody else on the staff does it. But the drawing of the clues, for one, just the pictures itself, very small differences between the pilot and Snack Time. But beyond that, the pages are a little bit of a different color, and then of course the rings in Snack Time are red for the handy dandy notebook, while these just look like a regular notebook rings that you buy at any store. Which is probably what they did. They probably got it at some store nearby. But really, it shows that in the pilot, they knew how they were going to do this, and other than the notebook changing a little bit, pretty much stayed the same. And the drawings are still impressive. Makes a ton of sense that they had somebody behind the scenes who would draw these pictures, because they really did a great job, and I don't think I ever appreciated that as much as a kid as what I do now looking back. So some general things I noticed as I watched the pilot. In a regular episode of Blue's Clues, it's a slow zoom into the front door. While here, it wasn't really the case. They did, end up going in through the door, but it wasn't the slow zoom, but we did get a zoom out at the end. Glad they made the decision. I really like the idea of zooming in and zooming out at the start and end of each episode. They did talk about, Blue's Clues a lot throughout the pilot, but they would drop the S a lot, so it'd be Blue's Clue instead of Blue's Clues with the S. And it makes sense that they added the S, because Steve isn't looking for just one clue. He looks for 3 clues an episode, and Blue's Clues, I think, sounds a lot better than Blue's Clue. So again, very little change, but a change nonetheless. Music was a little bit different, like the song Steve sang at the beginning, different than really any other song I've heard him sing before. Some of the background music they used different as well. I mean, they're not big changes. I think the songs and music they used in the pilot, if they kept that for Snack Time, I think it'll work perfectly. But just interesting, the song choices they changed, and I don't think it was for the worst. I think it is a better episode, but I don't think the quality of Snack Time with the music they used for the pilot, I don't think it would have been a bad episode. And it sounds like a lot of the characters' voices are probably somebody from the crew. Mr. Salt, Mrs. Pepper, Mr. Salt doesn't have his classic voice, and I think they were probably still deciding what type of voice they wanted for someone like him. We don't hear Blue's voice throughout the episode, and we don't hear the kids' responses when Steve says something to the camera. And those are small changes that I won't be surprised if someday someone edits what happens in Snack Time audio-wise in that case, and puts them in so the kids' response or Blue talking. I could really see that, and it's a simple fix in that regard. But here, I assuming this is the version that they showed the executives to pitch the show to, I assume they probably kind of gave them the heads up, like, hey, we're gonna have these, because it's obvious that they're missing throughout this episode, and they just never either filmed them or never put them in, and the audio that is in is very quiet, hard to understand, and again, you can kind of tell that it's crew members who are doing this, which is fine. Again, it's a pilot, it's completely okay, but it's just interesting to see. Last thing, Steve, when he did the Blue Skidoo We Can Do into the picture, he didn't actually say that. He just danced and went into the picture, and same when he left to go back into the house, which is interesting to me. I'm wondering if they had originally planned to just play some music in the background as Steve went in, because I think it's so much better having Steve sing the Blue Skidoo, because it's a little weird seeing him dance. It doesn't ruin the episode, but again, that's just a change that they made from the pilot to episode 1 that I think was the correct change. Like I said at the start of the video, I grew up a big Blue's Clues fan. I remember watching their 10-year anniversary special, seeing clips of the pilot and thinking, it'd be so cool to see what that all looks like. And who would have thought over 15 years later I finally would get the chance to do so. And now having watched that, looking at the changes they made from the pilot to the production of the show, I feel like all the changes they made were for the better. They were smart changes and personally made me really enjoy Blue's Clues as a kid. So congratulations, a great pilot, honestly, good enough obviously to get picked up, and you could tell the show was going to be good just by watching that pilot. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I've made videos before talking about pilots. I talked about the Bob the Builder pilot, recently made a video talking about the problems with Thomas Wooden Railway, and I make a lot of Thomas Wooden Railway videos in general on this channel, so if any of that interests you, be sure to check them out and subscribe for more content. Thank you all for watching. This is Percy number 6. Hope you have a great day.